again and again. Russia's Iskander-M missile proves one thing. When it's launched, something important is about to vanish from the battlefield. This isn't just another strike report. This is a reminder that in modern warfare, survival depends on being unseen, and Ukraine just learned that lesson the hard way. In mid-August 2025, the calm night sky over Sumy was nothing but silence. Somewhere near the village of Zhikovo, a Ukrainian HIMARS MLRS sat in position, ready for its next mission. But in war, readiness means nothing if the enemy already knows where you are. Hours later, that American-made launcher would be reduced to smoldering metal, courtesy of an Iskander-M. But the question relies, what exactly happens to this artillery vehicle, which is designed to hunt high-value targets? And more importantly, what does its destruction mean for the balance of firepower in this military operation? Let's dive into it. The HIMARS M142 is not just artillery, it is a political symbol, proof of US commitment, and a battlefield asset capable of striking Russian positions far behind the front lines. Ukraine has used it to deliver precision blows that Moscow could not ignore. In Zhikovo, the Sever group of forces had been watching. Through the Telegram channel, The Wrong Side on August 14th, an aerial reconnaissance photo was released, providing the Russians with everything they needed: coordinates, timing, and the strategic point for their next military operation. The HIMARS, which had been preparing to engage its target, turned out to be one step too slow. It was neutralized by Russian troops. But it did not stop there. Through the Telegram channel of the Ministry of Defense Russia later on the same day, the footage was released showing the launch of the Iskander-M, a missile whose explosive power has been proven on the battlefield, targeted to deliver a devastating blow to Ukraine's HIMARS. The launch flare and the ballistic trajectory disappearing into the darkness can be seen in the video. The coordinates were also published on another pro-military channels, confirming the strike zone. This was no random stroke of luck. It was a deliberate, calculated operation executed with precision. For the Sever group of forces, it was proof that NATO standard weapons are far from invulnerable. And for Ukraine, a warning that their most valuable assets are being relentlessly hunted. What happened at Zhikovo is striking, but it was far from an isolated case. The Iskander-M has been repeatedly employed against a wider array of Ukrainian assets besides HIMARS. The destroyment launched from the Iskander-M missile wasn't just a one-time strike. Later on the following days, the Telegram channel of Military News released the latest strikes launched from this missile. Reported on August 18th, the footage once again demonstrates the Iskander-M role not only as a usual missile, but also as a force that continues to shape the battlefield. This time, its target was not artillery, but the gathering of UAVs and their supporting equipment. Near the village of Iverskoye in the DPR, a Russian reconnaissance drone identified a Ukrainian site preparing long-range attack drones. Within moments, the Iskander-M struck with a missile carrying a cluster warhead, destroying dozens of UAVs alongside the transport vehicles meant to carry them. This proves that the Iskander-M is not a weapon built for singular battles. It is a system designed to neutralize whatever Ukraine places in the field, from artillery to drones. Yet, among all these targets, the HIMARS stand apart. It is not just another piece of equipment. It is a strategic asset, a marker of shifting power, and a weapon aimed at perception. Ukraine has used it to deliver precision blows that Moscow could not ignore. That is why every HIMARS in Ukraine lives under constant surveillance, monitored by drones, satellites, and intelligence networks. The loss of the HIMARS, one of Ukraine's key assets, doesn't just mean a blow in hardware. It is a strike against poor planning maturity, a disruption of artillery strategy, and a warning to the Ukrainian military that every missile launched by Russia could very well mark the end of their battlefield supremacy. Seeing the HIMARS mobility, one might wonder, how could such a system fall so quickly to an Iskander-M? Let's break it down. Mobility is often seen as the HIMARS' strongest card. With its wheeled chassis and rapid shoot-and-scoot tactics, it can fire salvos and relocate within minutes. On paper, that makes it elusive, but mobility has limits. It buys time, not invisibility. In Gikovo, the HIMARS position was already compromised before it could even execute its escape plan. Once surveillance assets had marked it, the countdown had already begun. The system's agility meant little when the rival knew exactly where to aim. The key lies in the Iskander-M's design. Unlike traditional ballistic missiles, the Iskander is not a straight-line projectile waiting to be intercepted. It maneuvers in flight, changes altitude and trajectory, and carries a guidance system precise enough to strike in a single launch. Its speed, several times the speed of sound, shrinks the reaction window to almost nothing. By the time the HIMARS crew could even think about moving, the missile was already seconds away from impact. And then there's the bigger picture: reconnaissance. The Sever group of forces didn't simply stumble upon a HIMARS. They tracked it, confirmed its coordinates, and synchronized intelligence with strike assets. This isn't just firepower, it's integration. The HIMARS mobility gave it an edge against older, slower response weapons. But against a fully integrated recon strike chain, mobility alone was never going to be enough. This is why Gikovo matters. It shows that survival on today's battlefield depends less on speed and more on staying hidden in an environment where drones, satellites, and electronic surveillance are always watching. If you're seen, you're already halfway to being destroyed, and that is the brutal equation the HIMARS couldn't escape from. The strike at Gikovo shows more than just the destruction of a single system. It shows how quickly the balance can shift when precision and timing converge. The real test ahead is whether Ukraine can absorb the next move, adjusting to the pace of Russian operations that continue to set the rhythm of the battlefield. Ultimately, the takeaway is undeniable. Survival depends not on technology alone, but on the ability to hide, adapt, and strike back under constant pressure. For Russia, Gikovo demonstrated that even NATO's standard assets are vulnerable to a well-coordinated reconnaissance strike chain. For Ukraine, the challenge now is endurance. Because in this war, every move sets the stage for the next. For now, that's today's wrap-up. Thanks for watching.